Zaxby's, indescribably good.
Good evening, Raider fans, and welcome to Week 1 of Walton football. I'm Kurt Schreiner here with the head coach of the Walton Raiders, Rocky Hidalgo, and as always, we're sponsored by Zaxby's. And tonight, we're previewing the Peachtree RIdge game as the Raiders head to the Georgia Dome again, Rocky, for the season opener against the Peachtree RIdge Lions. And once again, the Raiders are headed to the Dome, and that's always a good place to start the season for you guys.
Yeah, it's a great experience for our kids to get the chance to go down there and play with the Atlanta Falcons play. It's great exposure, obviously, on GPTV across the state of Georgia and on the internet, and playing in a venue and in an event that has been called the #1 day of high school football in the country. So, it's kind of a cool thing to do.
You know, you've got a number of players who have played in the Dome before, in the state championship, last year against Brookwood. But with some of the newer guys, especially some of the newer guys that this might be their first start, do you have to kind of keep them grounded and not just looking at the banners and things of that sort when you go in?
You know, it's going to be a little different for us this year because we have so many young kids playing for us. You know, we were going to play 4 or 5 sophomores and 8 or 9 juniors. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys react. We want them to go into the game focusing on Peachtree RIdge. I probably should go out before there won't be time, but to do the old Hoosiers thing and measure off the court and go, it's 100 yards and just like everything else. But, obviously that's not going to be. But, we try to be focused on Peachtree RIdge, what we have to do. As long as we're focused on that, and hopefully they'll be mature enough to handle the experience and go in and play well.
Well, it's such a big deal that when you think about it in the last year, the games that were played at the Dome, the SEC championship with Georgia versus Alabama, of course, those 2 playoff games. And for a high school kid and a high school fan and the cheerleaders and the student body, I mean, it's just a huge opportunity to showcase your program and showcase both programs, which have been very successful.
Yeah, the environment down there, until you're on the field, you really don't have an idea of how loud it is.
Yeah.
Even there'll be 20,000 people at the game on Saturday, but even with 20,000 people, it is incredibly loud on the surface of the field, and you can feel the noise in the stadium. It's something that in our high school stadiums, because they're so open, that's not the case.
Right.
It's just a real neat experience to go down there. I've done it quite a few times.
Right.
The first game I ever coached at Walton High School was in the Georgia Dome versus
Norcross
versus Lasser High School, and ever since that time, you run out with a team on the turf. It's just the hair kind of stands up on the back of your neck. It's a really neat thing.
It's one of those things when you talk to former Walton players, and they remember those games going to the Dome. And I can remember Adam talking about when the bus comes down and they drop you off in the players. He said, and you just feel like this is big time. This is really, really big time.
You see what that big time locker room's like. You get to go in the big boy locker room that the New Orleans Saints or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the same locker room they're going to be in, and it's makes you feel big time when you go down and do that stuff.
So Rocky, we talked last week about how spring and summer practices had gone. Coming into this first game of the season, are you healthy?
We're getting there. We've got it. With our older kids, we're fairly healthy. Ryan Rogie, who's been backing up with us for a little bit at safety, is battling a back injury. We've got some guys dinged up. Forrest Evans, starting right tackle, had emergency surgery on his jaw to remove some wisdom teeth.
Oh boy!
He showed up in my office with spaced out on anesthesia with what looked like a pair of underwear on his head. He looked like Curly Neal from the Three Stooges when he showed up, trying to explain to me what had happened to him, and he really didn't know where he was. It was pretty funny. But we expect he'll be back tomorrow. But we've got some guys dinged up here or there. But for the most part, we ought to be in good shape when we hit the field.
Now, Peachtree RIdge is a relatively new school, been in existence I think 12 years, and last year was the first year they had a losing season in the last 7 seasons, and they went 4-6, and Coach Fleetwood's second year. But as you look at some of the players that they have coming up, particularly on the offensive line with Orlando Brown, the Glass kid that plays safety, I mean, they've got some real players out there and players that can impact the game.
Yeah, I think probably they play in a very difficult region.
Yeah,
and the other side, they played a lot of young players. Anytime, that's my hesitation. We go into games, we're so young at the start of seasons. Young players make mistakes. That's what they do. And until they become mature, experienced players, they make mistakes. We've kind of stressed with our kids going into this game to let's pare down the game plan. But I think what you see from Peachtree RIdge from last year, that record they had last year, they played a lot of young talent. And this year they have a lot of experienced players. 5 guys are committed or have been offered by BCS schools. And when you watch them on tape, I mean, they've got a lot of guys who can do some things with a football in their hand. They can run down the football on defense. They're a very good football team.
They remind me a little bit this year of where we were last year, where they've got some real skill players coming back on offense. Defensively, they lost a lot of players, so they're a little young, and they have some work to do on the offensive line, apart from Orlando playing tackle. But they have some inexperience, but they've got playmakers.
They do, and anytime you have guys who can run around like they have, they can just dump the ball out, and that's what happened in their scrimmage. They had 3 big plays and they scored some touchdowns. But I think what you can look at is they've got some guys. They're going to be a little young on defense. That is the case. But I think what you can glean from their scrimmage game is that how talented they are. They've got a lot of big play potential. Their quarterback's a very, very good player. Does a good job of distributing the ball around. And when you have a quarterback with experienced skill players, and that was one of the things that, for us last year, we had a couple of things going on. One, Parker was injured, and the other side is we found out that Price could take a hit because our whole offensive line was decimated, and every time we dropped back to pass, he got sacked. But it's hard to do that. But they have, with those skill players, they have a very experienced quarterback coming back, so it makes them dangerous on the offensive side of the ball.
Is Orlando Brown one of the biggest high school players you've ever seen?
I haven't seen him up close in a couple of years, but
6'7", 345 is what he was listed.
He's pretty big. On video, you notice who he is rather quickly. He's the guy. Somebody was complaining and talking on the video about how far he aligns in his stance, how deep he is in the backfield.
Well, wait a minute.
but he's so deep, but yet when he gets in his stance, his head still catches the hip of the center because he's a giant of a man. I guess Kyle Whitaker will be lining up across from him. I hope his mom doesn't have, or maybe she needs some recent pictures of him or something to remember him. But no, Kyle will be fine. But he's a big rascal. I don't want to buy his lunches. Let's just say that.
And Orlando's father played in the NFL for, I guess, the Ravens and the Browns, and Orlando's kind of following his father's footsteps, going to Tennessee, and they've got a number of. We talked about their backs. Davis and Ellis, who as you talk about, when they get on the perimeter and they get the ball, they're dangerous, and so the Raiders have got to tackle well on Saturday.
We do, and we have to hem those guys up. We have to play well on the. They like to get the ball out in space to their athletes, but they also have some very talented backs to run the football. So we have to do a very good job. Our defensive line has to play well, has to do a good job playing the line of scrimmage, controlling the line of scrimmage, and control their running game, so we can really focus on getting out in space and tackling well in space.
Rocky, you start this game this weekend at 11:45 in the morning, which we kiddingly said last week. It seemed like we started several games at 11:45 at night last year. This is a kind of an easy one, right? You get them up, you get them on the bus, you go to the game, and you play football, right?
I'm really excited about playing 11:45. There's nothing worse than playing that Saturday game. The day we played the state championship game at 8 o'clock, and we had to spend all day long waiting to play that game.
Thinking about that game.
It was the longest day of my life, and there's no way to spend that day. Just to know that we're going to have a meeting at 8:15, we're going to have breakfast at 8:30, we're going to get on the bus, we're going to go down there, they're going to change, and we roll right out and play a game. And by 2 o'clock, 2:30, it's going to be over with, and and we don't have to spend the entire day, fretting over did we cover everything. I mean, as a coach, you go over every possible detail into that game, and I just know those long Saturdays, or did we go over this? Do I need to call the kids in? Do I need to go over this? And, most of the time those guys are ready.
It's going to be a huge day. I'll remind Raider fans that if you want to buy your tickets, I'd urge you to buy your tickets here at Walton. The school gets credit for those tickets and versus buying a ticket down at the Dome on Saturday. We're going to take a break, have a couple bills paid here by Zaxby's for us, and we'll come back and talk to Rocky about a couple of other things before we break. This is the Rocky Hidalgo Show.
Zaxby's, indescribably good. Zaxby's, indescribably good.
Coach, switching gears, though, away from the game, let's talk a little bit about the region. We've got the game against Peachtree RIdge and then Hillgrove on the following weekend. and then you start to head into the region season. We have 4 home games this year, I guess 3 of which are Lassiter, Wheeler, and Roswell at home as region games. But just kind of a feel for the Cobb County football situation from your perspective, as well as just, the region's getting a lot tougher.
It is. I think from in regards to our region, I think you'll see Roswell will be improved this year. They've got quite a few kids back from their team last year, and even though they didn't win a lot of games, they lost a lot of games very, very close. They were in every game.
Yep.
And they've got a lot of kids back. So I think Roswell will be improved. I know Coach DeCristofaro at Milton really likes his group of kids that he has this year. He feels like defensively they got a chance to be as good or better as they were last year. I didn't want to hear that because they were really good up front last year.
Yeah, they were good.
And they've got a great tailback. A big, more athletic offensive line is what I've heard, and they really like their group of kids. Nick Wilson is an All-American offensive lineman over there. They think they have a chance to have a really good team. Obviously, I think Coach Irwin at Lassiter does a nice job. I think they'll continue to be good. Very good skill players. They lost a lot on defense, but I know their defensive coordinator is a very good coach. I'm sure he'll have those guys ready to go.
Yep.
I think the big surprise in the region is going to be Wheeler. I think they had a lot of young players last year. I think Coach Collins is probably one of the 3 or 4 best coaches anywhere around here.
Yeah, he's really done some.
He really is.
Some miracles over there. Really.
What he's done is he's gotten people involved. He's kept kids in the program. He's gotten people excited about their program. When you look at their kids have a whole different demeanor than they had 4 or 5 years ago. He's got people who really care about Wheeler football again. He's a great coach, a very good man, and I think Wheeler's going to compete for the region championship this year. I really do.
That's good. That's excellent. I mean, it's good to have those rivalries with Wheeler, Walton, and Lassiter so close, and all of those games are relevant.
It is. I think you'll see the Cherokee schools. Etowah's got a lot coming back. They feel like they've got a playmaker in their quarterback. They're going to be a big, strong physical football team.
Yep.
Cherokee's really excited about the group they have coming back. They've got some skill players coming back, and Cherokee always has those kind of big strapping guys. And then Woodstock. Woodstock, they hired some new coordinators last year. They're really excited about what they're doing on offense, kind of spreading the ball around, moving things. So, I think as a whole, the region's going to be tougher. I don't think there's going to be a down week this week. I know everybody says that, and you can't look past anybody, but I really do. I think it's going to be top to bottom. I'm not sure if anybody in the region is going to be as good as we were in 2011.
Right.
I'm not sure if anybody's going to be as good as or be able to go 10-0 like Lassiter did last year, because I think the region's going to be really tight. Cobb County, I think, obviously the ones everybody knows about. Coach Burton at Marietta's done a nice job kind of getting that program consistent every year.
Yep.
Hillgrove and McEachern have some very good football teams. McEachern has a lot of talent. You hear people talk about the amount of just pure talent they have running around the field. Coach Ironside at Hillgrove is a great football coach, does a great job running his program, and they've got some. Everybody talks about McEachern, but Hillgrove has got some really special players over there as well. And then you've got Alatoona up there, Kell High School, Pope High School, who's made the playoffs 4 straight years. There's football in Cobb County has really come around. Matt Dickman at Harrison High School, the community is really excited by him.
Right.
They're invigorated. They feel like they have a chance to make the playoffs this year. So I think that, as a whole, the county is going to be really tough. I think you see next Friday night when we play the Cobb East-West Classic, we'll learn some things about, Lassiter, McEachern, and Hillgrove and everybody in those crossover games, kind of where we are against each other.
And McEachern and Brookwood, I think, play on Saturday at the Dome, which is the 2 teams that have played at the Dome the most. Those are the 2 teams that have played the most. But I think that Cobb County just got to get that state championship at our level. And
I'm working on it, Kurt.
We've been close, and you got a whole bunch of colleagues out there. Everybody's got to
I don't care.
carry it.
Look, I root for those guys, but I'm just going to be honest. I want to win the state championship.
Absolutely.
I want to win the state championship. So I'm looking at all the people at home. We're trying. We're working on it. This is a goal. We've got it somewhere on a tick on the list over there.
Well, the march towards the state championship starts on Saturday morning at 11:45 at the Georgia Dome against the Peachtree RIdge Lions. We'd love to see you there. Don't forget, get your tickets at Walton High School so the school gets credit towards those tickets. We're on the road for a couple of games against Hillgrove over at McEachern in the East-West Classic. But Raider Vision will be on the air, I believe. We've got an off week. Bob McLeod's over there giving me hand signals. I think it's the bunt signal, but I'm not sure. But we play North Cobb at home in a couple of weeks, and Tim Burns and I will bring that game to you live, produced by Pete English, as always, and we'll be excited about that first home opener here at Raider Valley. But until then, I'm Kurt Schreiner, along with the head coach of Walton High School, Rocky Hidalgo, sponsored by Zaxby's. Go Raiders. We'll see you at the Georgia Dome Saturday morning.